Hi everyone, welcome once again to Riding Tiger with Arijit, and this show is all about people who are change makers across the world. And we crossed approximate 55th episode in our last episode. And today I have got an amazing woman who is disrupting the world. But before I introduce you to her, let me talk about a little bit about what is Riding Tiger and why I call it as a Riding Tiger. As an entrepreneur, when you start your journey, you actually adopt a cub, and that cub is a tiger. Why? Because it's a risky affair. When you adopt that, you usually feed it with milk. It's small, it's tiny. It needs high protein, a lot of encouragement to grow as a big size, with the intention that as a founder, one day you'll be riding on your own business, your own venture. But when you run it, when you start it, your starting point starts with a risk. Because if you stop, the tiger will eat you. And when exactly you're going to stop if you can't feed it properly? And that feeding material is not meat now. That feeding material is money, technology, skills, people, innovation, growth. So many different kind of aspect which usually comes when you ride your business, when you start your riding tiger. And today I've got amazing lady from New York, USA. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here. How are you, Arijit?
I'm doing perfectly fine. If you can kindly tell us about your life story, how you started your business and how you are impacting the world, it will be great for the audience, please.
Well, I have a long story. Currently, I'm running an organization called Catalyst. Catalyst is a global nonprofit that works with some of the world's most powerful CEOs and companies, over 500 of them, to help build workplaces that work for women. We were founded in 1962, and we're celebrating our 60th anniversary. And what we do is we do research on what it takes to build a workplace that works for women and for everyone. We then provide companies with a whole range of tools and technologies and knowledge products to help them be successful in that. And then we have a global footprint, and we bring people together virtually and in person around the world so they can learn from each other. And but that's what I'm doing now. And I will say that this has been an extraordinary experience. And when you talk about riding the tiger, although it's a 6-year-old organization and I've been here 4 years, I certainly relate to that because times are changing so quickly. The nature of work is changing. The nature of what it takes to be successful in business is changing as an organization. So change is the only thing that's not changing. Everyone has to adapt to it. So coming into Catalyst, when I did 4 years ago, being a 6-year-old organization, I was brought in to be a disruptor based on my years and years of experience in Silicon Valley and in technology, so that we could really radically change Catalyst so it could be as impactful as possible around a mission that is still extremely important. But as we know, organizations, the tenure of organizations is not what it used to be because of this radical sense of change. So being able to ride that tiger, being able to not, in some ways, it's even more difficult than being an entrepreneur in some aspects, because you got people who've been in the organization, they have a history, they have a culture, and we know that culture often eats strategy for lunch. It's really important to change culture so that they can move and go into the change that they need to do to move as an organization. And technology is driving all of that. But I want to go back about my history to say, how did I get here? And what has been my personal journey? My history starts when I was a child, and I was actually dyslexic. And as a woman, I ended up going into technology, into the computer industry, and getting a computer science degree from Stanford in 1976. So I got involved in the technology industry very, very early on. And it was not the thing that everyone was doing at the time. It was really out of a combination of, I remember the first time I wrote a computer program, and it was on a teletype terminal going into an Air Force base. And I was working at a college that was Hamilton College in upstate New York, and they didn't have any computer science courses. I had a math professor who recognized my skills around math and analytical things and recommended I do a self-study in computers. So that's how I got into it. And I ended up transferring to Stanford because of that, because Stanford had a much better curriculum, because Hamilton College, I wasn't going to be able to, at that moment in time, really pursue my interest and my passion. So I got interested in this and it became a passion of mine, and really the applications of computers to solving, and changing the world, which of course we know it does all the time. So I got involved. I was in Silicon Valley. Most of my career was in Silicon Valley in the tech industry. I actually started at IBM. I moved from doing technology into sales and then built my career up through the executive ranks. I was both a C-level executive at a mid-sized public company in Silicon Valley, and then I ran 2 startups. So I've had experience riding the tiger. I rode it through the internet bubble, and then another startup after that. But what I'm focused on now, which is my second great career passion around advancing women, really came from my personal agenda, my personal lived experience of being a woman in technology in Silicon Valley in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, where you weren't, you were not the dominant gender. You were trailblazing. So eventually, when I started to get to a place where I really wanted to give back, and I was in a place where I started to focus on how I can really help women in leadership. The first thing I did was get involved in some of the local leadership organizations in Silicon Valley and at Stanford around women. And then I spent quite a bit of time helping Hillary Clinton with the thought of getting her to be president of the United States. I took a lot of my experiences and was a big fundraiser for her. And I ended up working at the US Department of State. And I was responsible for commercial and business affairs. And I launched the Global Entrepreneurship Program there, which is a program that really drove entrepreneurship ecosystem building in countries all around the world using our embassies. We launched a big program in Egypt, one in Indonesia, one in Turkey, and it became a big part of the agenda for this group I was in. And President Obama, we had this entrepreneurship summit that was now done all around the world. So I was a key part of driving all that. So, I believe entrepreneurship is critical to countries that are evolving, that we know, as we just started the conversation, that technology is driving so much, and that entrepreneurs are the ones who are on top of all that. So this is why the exporting of US entrepreneurship skills became part of our diplomatic agenda, so we could help countries around the world really develop those ecosystems.
True. Not only that, if I am not wrong, when you are talking about creating such kind of ecosystem, it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of work. I would love to ask you one thing. What is your success mantra? How did you achieve such big goal?
My success mantra, and I think I got to it a little bit in talking about my experiences, is really to align your strengths, leaning into your strengths, and in understanding what your strengths are takes some time. I started to understand that even though I had dyslexia and I had issues with reading and just reading quickly and editing, that I was really good in this technology area. And then I developed a really strong competency around fundraising and sales. I developed that over time. And to take those strengths and the strengths that you really like to do on a day-to-day basis, align them behind passions. So, a large part of my career was really driven around my passion for technology and using technology to really change the world. And then moving into this passion I had around advancing women and making women really be equal players in society and in the business world. My success mantras are to really align your strengths and where you can uniquely have an impact on the world behind the things you really have passions for. The other thing I'd say is, across my life, starting with being a kid who wasn't necessarily the most popular or the most, successful in school early on because of some unmade disabilities, to have, resiliency, to have grit, to understand how to take your failures, introspect from them, learn from them, but get back on that tiger again. I always tell people when they're in sales, if you don't ask for the order, you're never going to get the order. If you don't get back on the tiger, you're not going to be have a chance to play another day. Lots of people have failures in life, but if you don't get back on, you don't learn from this and then move forward. That careers have their ups and downs, and looking back at it, now that I'm in my 60s, I will say that you have a lot of time to do that. If you continue to learn, you continue to have the energy, and you get back on the tiger.
True. Totally agree on this. And when we are talking about such kind of successes, I have a very simple thing in my mind, which I can't resist myself to ask you. What do you mean by success? What is success for you?
Well, success means different things for different people, but for me, it really has to do with having a happy, fulfilling life for the days, the weeks, the months, the years we're going to be on this planet. That we really feel that every day we feel excited about what we're doing and energized and really feeling that we can contribute in our own unique way, and that we feel good about that. I think there's so many aspects of life. I think a rounded life that, in my life, I have my business life that I'm passionate about, but I'm now a grandmother of 3 little kids under 5 years old, and that brings the biggest smile to every time I talk about it. I have the opportunity to see how they're growing, develop. Like just yesterday, my little grandson was over, and he was doing an art project. These little things that he stuck in, he had spent like an hour doing it, and they weren't glued down. So he had moved paper, and they all spilled on the floor. So I watched him, and he was like, and then he went into tears. So I grabbed him and I consoled him. But then I said, well, you can build another one, and it will even be better. Quickly, he said, okay, great. And he started building the next one. And then we were able to, finish it up. So, I was thinking about, just in the moment, we're teaching him resiliency. We're also teaching empathy, how to acknowledge his feeling in the moment, his emotional feeling in the moment, but also permit him to say, it's not the end of the world. You can go on, you can get back on the tiger. And he got back on the tiger, and he did another little, another little project.
Frankly speaking, when we actually work for the world, we do many good karma. Karma gives us a huge give back. In my opinion, when we are working with nature and we give probably 5 to nature gives us 50 back. And that's the reason probably you are getting many happiness from various different parts. It's just like an ATM card you have for maybe one bank, but you can bring cash from different ATM machines. And that's what's happening. And it's a blessed life that you have.
Well, let me add to that. I will add to that, because you bring up nature, so the other parts of my life that I think are really important is my overall family, but also, I get out into nature a lot. I do a lot of athletics so all these things, you're right. It's a virtuous circle around all these things that allow you to see life from different perspectives and find joy in everyday things that that are part of your life.
True, totally agree. But if I may want to ask you, you have achieved several things in your life. You have been a disruptor. You have helped so many people. You have created basically the platform where people can get help and give help at the same time. So what is your future goal? What do you feel what you want to do in maybe next 5 or 6 years?
That's a great question. So at Catalyst, which is the real focus of my worldly legacy, you know, we just finished putting together a strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And we did it with a lot of intentionality. When I came into the organization 4 years ago, we did a similar thing, and we've achieved many of the goals of that. And we've worked through this next strategic plan. So I'm very excited about what we're doing. We're in a place, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary in a very unique time in history because there's so much change going on. You know, this pandemic has really upended everyone in many ways. And some of the trends, we have a whole focus on the future of work. Some of the trends that we identified in 2019, right before the pandemic started, have just been turbocharged with the pandemic. So technology is driving things even faster. People's values are changing. The pandemic has had everyone introspect on what's really important to them in life and what type of balance do they really want. We have an enhanced focus on equity, which I think is really important, and looking at people from different lenses of where they come from and making people really appreciate that. I mean, in the United States, the George Floyd incident really put a light on the racial equity issues that we have in the United States, but we have a global world with a melting pot of people, and really understanding that is really a critical thing. But all of these things that are coming together means that there's going to be rapid change in the way people work and how they live their lives. So our strategic plan is really focused on how do we take all the things that we've done research on and learning so that we can have more impact. So how are we going to have more impact? Catalyst historically has been focused on women, mostly college-educated women, and how they're going to advance in their careers to become CEOs or on boards of directors. But now we're going to be looking at frontline workers, hourly workers, and understanding what we really can do for them. Those are the people where there's the most diversity in it. And also in the pandemic, those frontline workers were impacted more. So they're going through more rapid change. But we are looking to how we can really create inclusive cultures where people can thrive at every level in the organization. And we're also going to be really driving our impact by doubling the number of supporters. We have about 520 major corporations that support Catalyst. We want to double that over this time so that we can drive impact through them, so that they have better representation, they have better, they have pay equity, they are making sure they retain their women and they can thrive in the organization. So we're going to look to really expand our impact across a much wider range of organizations.
Super.
So my focus is on making that happen.
Super. I wish that is going to happen very, very soon. I'm sure that it is going to happen. And I know that you are a doer. It's going to happen. I have a different kind of perspective, which is not relevant and related to business. I would love to ask you one question, which is mainly on life. Imagine that you are in front of a park, and in that park, there is only one single bench. Weather is sunny, it's like beautiful breeze, lot of greeneries here and there. There is a mountain in your back, and there is a beautiful river which is going on in front of that mountain. So if I ask you to sit with someone in that bench, you can bring out people from past, it can be from future, past, present, anyone. Whom would you sit with, and what kind of conversation you want to have with him or her or any other personality?
Well, there's a few people, perhaps, people like in the United States, like Abraham Lincoln or FDR, who have been extraordinary leaders in difficult times, that you can learn from and understand their leadership perspective. I think that would be a great thing. I also think I would love to hear what my great-grandmother had to say about her journey coming from Russia to the United States, and how they viewed the world. And one thing I've really realized, especially as I've looked at the women's movement over time, that we are so much a part of the culture and the society we're born into. And while we hope we can make change, we do try to. We are making change. We are so impacted by that. So where I came from, what their opportunities and obstacles were, we can learn from that and have a perspective that shines a light on who we are.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much, Lorraine, for coming and sharing your insights. And we'll be more than happy if audience can kindly put their comments in the YouTube link and definitely in my LinkedIn post. We'll be more than happy to take those comments and taking it towards Lorraine. If she wishes, she can definitely give us a reply back. Thank you so much once again for coming and sharing those insights. Do good. I feel that one day, once I travel to US, we can meet and probably we can have some good time together in person. Thank you. Thank you.
We'd love to do that. I hope we have that opportunity. Take care. This was a pleasure.
Pleasure.